Hey folks, this is West Point Foundry Preserve in Cold Springs, New York. Many years ago I walked these woods, and at that time this was just an overgrown ruin. But today, thanks to scenic Hudson, West Point Foundry is an easily accessible historical landmark on the Hudson. Now the West Point Foundry was begun in 1817, and by far its most productive period was during the Civil War. It was during the Civil War when the foundry supplied the Union with cannon and ordnance. They hired more than 1,400 people, they produced 2,000 cannon and 3 million shells. The story I'd like to share with you today is not from the foundry's heyday. It's from well after the war. The foundry had fallen on hard financial times, and the furnace that once ran around the clock was down to one daytime shift. And it was during this period that a spectacular robbery took place here. This is the story of the Highland Brigands. The year was 1874, and America was in the midst of a severe economic downturn, sometimes called the First Great Depression. And Cold Springs and its immediate surroundings were experiencing a severe crime wave. A band of thieves had robbed a bank courier. They were burglarizing homes, threatening blackmail, plundering rail cars, and the entire community was on edge. This band of thieves was dubbed the Highland Brigands. The thought of a violent gang descending from the rocky hills around the town terrified the local community. And then, one June night, the Highland Brigands hit the West Point Foundry. One of the night watchmen, James Lomax, told his story of that night. It reads like something out of an old western, and here's what he had to say. I first went to the office and stayed in there until 12:25. I then went to an oven in the molding shop to warm my tea. And I was in the act of putting my tin can down by the fire. 3 men made their appearance outside. And as I came out of the building, one of them stepped to my left, one of the others in front of me, and the third one behind me, and the first man said to me, "Are you firing up?" And I replied, "Yes." Then he said, "Where is the old man?" And I asked him, "What old man?" And he said, "The one that watches with you." And I said, "I thought he was in the office." "That old man's name is Rodney Rowe, a watchman the same as myself." I said to them, "Do you want him?" And he replied, "I want you, and you are my prisoner." Then they seized me. They put my hands behind my back and strapped them. One of the men then took a round ball out of his pocket and crammed it into my mouth, and then tied it around my neck with tarred strings, completely gagging me. They then set me down and strapped my legs with new straps in 2 places, and also pinioned my arms and tied me to a heavy casting. Then all 3 left. Finally, they came back and cut the straps from my legs and ordered me to stand up. Then they covered my head with a coat. I asked them as well as I could, "Where are you going with me?" And one replied gruffly, "You'll know after a while." I was then led out of doors, and they walked me into the office to the safe vault, in which they put me and shut the iron door nearly to, leaving it open just far enough to give me a chance to breathe. I found Rodney Rowe, the other watchman, in there too. He was also bound and gagged. We sat on the vault floor, facing each other, and while we were in the vault, we heard the robbers endeavoring to break open the safe on the opposite side of the room. The safe vault we were in was used for keeping books and paper in. The inner door is of iron and the outer of wood. The safe they were breaking into is 6 feet high. We couldn't see the men work, but we could hear them, and they were apparently hammering the safe with heavy hammers. And we could hear the clinking of cold chisels and the grating of levers, as though they were prying the doors open. Suddenly, they opened the outer door of the vault, and they called out to us, "Keep back from the inner door," as there was going to be an explosion. And of course we kept back. And then they shut the outer door, and we heard a very slight explosion soon after. When the outer door of the vault was again opened, we heard one of the burglars say to the other, "Where's the new fuse? That old fuse is good for nothing." We knew then that that first explosion was a failure, and we could hear them charge the safe a second time, and very soon a heavy explosion followed, as though the front part of the safe was blown out. We next heard them handling papers and tearing open envelopes. They were not more than half an hour doing that latter work when they again came to the door of the vault and opened the outer one. And coming to the inner door, opened the one a little also and peered in upon us. I mumbled to them that I felt faint, and they opened the door wider. One of them took a sledgehammer and smashed in one of the wooden panels of the outer door, and that let the air come in more freely, but he locked the door. All this time, Mr. Rowe and myself were trying to get our hands loose. Mr. Rowe finally succeeded. He then loosened mine, but we did not dare to show that our hands were free for fear they would kill us. Presently, we heard them gather up some things and leave the office, and we could hear them hurrying away. I managed to squeeze through the broken panel of the outside door, and soon released Mr. Rowe. Looking about the office, we discovered that a large hole had been blown in the north door of the safe, and both doors were powder-stained and wide open. Scattered about the floor were torn envelopes, papers, packages, etc. Also a crowbar, a sledgehammer, 2 cold chisels, fused hard strings, muslin gags, and punches. This was a little after 3 a.m., and as quickly as possible we gave the alarm, but the robbers had fled. All were masked. Well, that's it. The Highland Brigands made off with somewhere in the range of $3,500 in cash and bonds. And the Foundry continued on, but it never became financially viable again. The Foundry went into receivership in 1884 and declared bankruptcy in 1889. And in 1911, the West Point Foundry closed forever. The Highland Brigands were eventually caught and brought to justice. And as it turned out, they did hide their stolen goods in a cave by Breakneck Ridge. Now, if anyone knows the location of this cave, please let me know, because I'd love to see it. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
To you when I die.